Hello. Just give me a second. Okay, should be good. All right, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi, and this is the live streaming where I talk about Sashiko while doing Sashiko stitching. This is not a tutorials, this is not a lecture, this is not a workshop, so I am not going to answer any questions regarding to the technique. Especially if I have to stop stitching, I will not answer those type of questions. However, I would love to answer the questions about the culture or those like story side that I can talk while I'm stitching. So there will be nothing, not nothing. There won't be much going on over the camera here. So if you could bring some of your Sashiko project and stitch together, that'd be really great. It's my intention to make this live streaming as ibasho, a term for the Japanese word, the place to be. And I would like to keep offering this live streaming as the place for us to get together. Okay, a few announcement. It's actually the same same announcement as usual. One announcement is that I will have several in-person workshops in 2025, and one is in March 7th to 9th in Florida. That's the 3 days workshop. And if you are new to this Sashiko from us, not the any Sashiko to be honest, um, you may know what Sashiko is from other teachers, but if you do not know me, you don't probably know the Sashiko we practice. So I highly recommend to take the class, especially if you like to learn further what Sashiko really is. And as one of the last thing I can offer, I am offering the Sashiko Japan tour called Retreat. And I hope that I can make it happen sometimes next year in November. As of now, November is the popular month for this retreat. So I don't want to go over the Thanksgiving much, but at the same time, there's a possibility that I might go over. So let's see what I can do. The detailed information can be found on the website on the description area, both in-person workshop as well as the Japan retreat. Okay. Hello. Just right, like just 30 minutes ago, I wrote an article about reading. I made a post about reading a book on the Instagram, and I wasn't kind of 100% sure if I did a good job in terms of delivering the message, and I was wondering what it was the issue. And I kind of found the issue. Well, actually, the comment told me what was the issue, and I elaborated that elaborated that finding on the Patreon article. So I will talk about that today along with the topic I brought, which is I may be able to change an experience in someone's Sashiko. So that is the kind of equivalent, not equivalent. It has a link between the article I wrote today and something I'm going to talk today. All right, I will switch the camera. Welcome to the live streaming. Thank you so much for coming. It's the Thursday night. Next week will be the last week of the live streaming. That's kind of scary. I mean, for 2024. Yeah, that's gonna be the last week and last Thursday of the 2024. It's kind of crazy to come to think of that. It's getting pretty cold here, gang. Yoいしょ. let me just start and then I will start talking. It's the best time to do Sashiko. It's not too cold. I mean, it's not too hot. Heat is not the best friend for Sashiko itself, so summer is not the best time. I mean, at least for me. How was the trip to Japan last month? It was fantastic. It was very, very good. Um, we did something different from the first one in 2023, so it's not exactly the same experience, but I would say it's very quite similar experience. It is the series of workshops to, you know, to really feel what Sashiko can be. One of the requests I receive is that they as like audience or readers or viewers wants to hear a voice from somebody else besides me, and I understand that. It's really understandable that I'm the only one speaking in this account in English, so it's very, very understandable that they will not hear other people's opinion or feeling toward that. And it's not healthy. It's not really healthy to operate everything on one person's opinion. But what I share is not really the opinion. Of course, I do share the opinion, but it's not only the opinion. It's sometimes a story that I have heard from others, and it's sometimes a story or opinion that I have heard when I was a child. So, but at the same time, those are the stories that we went through. Those are the stories that went through my filter. And it is my intention, it is my almost dream to gather the voice from other Sashiko artists in Japan. But that can be quite difficult, especially over the internet, especially when they do not want to be in public. And I think that the Sashiko Japan retreat is the opportunity I can offer to meet them and ask the question if they have any. But more importantly, meeting them and knowing that there are more Sashiko artisans than me. It's more like a tour, a time, like a series of workshop to confirm that what I say is not a total BS. I can be blogging about something out of imagination because that's what internet is. You don't really know what is the truth and what is not the truth. So there is no, how can I say? There's no way to confirm that what I say is true or not, especially when they do not speak the same language. So pretty much all of the contents I have and also the platform I have is built on the trust I receive from them. And I really appreciate those trust. At the same time, I would like to make sure that I can introduce those people to them so that it's not only me who is in this. It's kind of only me when it comes to the English one, but so yes, for that reason, I think both the first one and second one was a very good tour. I mean, retreat. I'm sorry, I keep saying tour, but it's gonna be retreat because we don't really do any tour thing. We don't do any tourist thing. But yeah, I hope that I can keep offering that. Time goes so fast, too fast. I'm sorry, skipped the comment. Yes, time goes too fast. It is really fast. It's kind of crazy. Just a second, sorry. I have enjoyed seeing the pictures from the trip. I'm glad. It's not done yet. There's so many things that I would like to introduce and it's so behind. Please be patient. I'm sorry. Please bear with me a little bit more time. My daughter Leona got a bit of sick yesterday. Well, yesterday the first day that she skipped school. So she was probably sick before that, but yesterday was the first day that she had a fever. And we were hoping that she would kind of shake it away by today, but she didn't. She has been really doing great job for those 2 months. Very busy 2 months of finishing the school. I mean, not finishing school. That's not a chronological order. The Japan retreat, her ballet recital, and then some music concert that she joined. So it's kind of like a lot of events, and she did not miss any of those. So it was about time for her to get sick, I guess. And probably I'm getting sick too from her. But anyway, because of those things are moving, but not as fast as I wish. So, did my daughter enjoy the trip? I think so. Yes, she enjoyed the trip. I don't know if she enjoyed the tour itself, but she enjoyed the time in Japan. So that's what matters. That's what was missing probably in the 2023. I thought that she would be a little burden in terms of the retreat. You know, she's 9 years old. So it can be a burden, especially when we focus on doing the workshop. And there was always a risk that, but in fact, she was kind of like a charm in addition to a lot of things. So I hope that everybody was happy about it. I think they were happy about it. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice not to take her. So it's the fate that we have to carry as the family of immigrant. When we don't have any relatives around, and when one parent really has to work, the other has to take the kid, especially it's overnight, you know. Like I sometimes wish that we had parents around here so that we can ask them to. Not that we would like to so often, but after all, we are the immigrant. We are the family who is starting up the family here. So my daughter doesn't have to, go through the same experience as we do. Hopefully she has us. I mean, unless she doesn't move to somewhere else. If she decided to live in the US, she should have us. I don't know how close they are, but what did she like the best? And I think it's everybody is probably same. The convenience store, the food there, She found the red bean kind of rice padding, like mochi thing. We call it daifuku. I am making that right now. Not right now, but I'm making that for this winter. As she found it, that it's not that difficult to make. But yeah. It was a good stuff. Yeah, I really hope that it's not really pneumonia or something like that. Well, she's not really coughing. She has running nose and stuffed nose and fever. Well, I don't know right now. She had a fever this morning. I didn't take the temperature afternoon. Let's see. So sorry about that. About reading. And this will probably explain about the experience I often talk about. The experience, the Sashiko I introduced in English is different from the Sashiko which is introduced right now in English. And there are quite many differences, but probably the biggest difference is the experience itself. The result might look similar, and even technique might look similar, but the experience itself is probably the biggest difference, and that's what I hear from the people who took my workshop. So that experience, so I put that on my title today, that I might be able to offer some experience that, what did I write? I may be able to change an experience in someone's Sashiko. So that experience, in order to explain what the experience is, I think that analogy of books, readings, may be a good idea to do. So, do you like reading? In reading, like around the book, I think there are two. When we categorize people like book enthusiast into two categories, we can probably put them A or B, and both A and B are not the matter of good or bad. They are just different. But I love reading. I enjoy reading, mainly in Japanese, but I enjoy reading. And I know the people who like to say that they like books. Like there's a category of the people who enjoy actual reading and reading, so they don't mind really borrowing the book from library as long as they can read. And another category is the people who kind of get benefit or who likes the figure of the one who like reading. So they don't really necessarily read, but they, as a summary, we like that those two categories people will say that they like books. And again, there's nothing wrong with saying that I like books, I like reading without reading. I know the kind of temptation to fill the bookshelf with fancy books, which I don't anymore because, again, I'm the immigrant, so I cannot really, less luggage, less, better life. Not a better life, better shifting. I think you probably have quite many of those. I wouldn't put the way Heather put, but yeah, like frankly, yeah, the one that likes to show off that they read. Sometimes people talk about books based on the actual reading, or sometimes they read the summary of the book and then they kind of pretend that they know everything about it. And there's nothing wrong with both sides. Depends on the fiction, depends on the type of book. If it's fiction, reading summary does not make sense. If it's like a business book, probably reading a whole book is not gonna make sense. So it is purely based on the type of the book. And there's again nothing wrong with those things. But my point is that we cannot mix those two people. That's my point. It's okay to have two categories of people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we cannot mix those two categories as one who like books. There is a big difference between those two. Because one actually read a book and one may not read a book. You know you got it bad when you read the books about bookshops. You know you got it bad when... Yeah, that sounds real bad. I'm reading a novel by a Japanese author right now. Oh, that's awesome. So this categorization can apply to Sashiko as well, which I very often explain the two categories of Sashiko stitches right now. Not only in English, but in Japan too, probably. I just don't know them. But category 1 is same as the people who really who really like reading, not reading, stitching. I hope that people here are, those who actually enjoy stitching. And the second category, another category, is that those who say that they like Sashiko for something else that they want to get. In different words, I would say that those are the people who get benefit by saying that they like Sashiko. Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagisawa was good. I probably don't know that book. Is it like a comic book? No, it's probably not. My test of those people is whether they're mad. They're mad about the loss of the library of Alexandria. It's a novel. I will check it out. I haven't read, well, as much as I say I like reading, I haven't read the novel. Well, I do read a different kind, I guess. Anyway, so Sashiko has those two categories. One is actually who likes stitching, and one says that they like Sashiko for the other benefit. And if we kind of expand, when we expand the category, of course, there are people who like Sashiko without stitching. Though they are a very important part of the Sashiko's sustainability, especially for those who wear Sashiko, who purchase Sashiko items, who support Sashiko artisans. Those are who use the Sashiko's design or philosophy, or those are a very important part of Sashiko, but they are not really the stitcher for that matter. And there's not all categories are not the comparison of good or bad. It's just a category. It's just existence. But bad thing or something we cannot do or shouldn't do is to mix them without proper explanation. So there should be a clear line or clear frame, illustration that this person is actually enjoying stitching and this person is actually enjoying the profit by saying that she or he likes stitching. If one mix it up, then we will lose something very important. And you don't want to talk about author or books or what was the message in that book or what's the book about based on somebody's interpretation summarized into 2 pages or 3 pages. You can probably get a plot or kind of like a rough essence of the novel by somebody's explanation, interpretation, or even summary of that. But that's more like the information. It's the information that they can get. So it's more like understanding of the book. It's not a reading the book. When I say that, to me, reading is the more like a process of the experience. It's the process. And of course, it brings the result, but it's a process. And I use the analogy of like a vehicle often in Sashiko, and it can apply to reading too. Let's say that reading is like a train to maneuver us to from A to B. And then there's a C station, D station, you name it. There's so many stations. And one understanding of a book is one station on that train movement. And reading itself is a very, very, very important vehicle to move us from there to there. So it's not the same thing. It's not a good or bad, but it's not the same thing. And we cannot mix the experience of reading a whole book and kind of like reading what is not written, for that matter, I guess, versus understanding the book by reading the summary. Those are 2 completely different experiences. Am I saying right? Yeah, I think I'm right. I'm saying right. So Sashiko is also the same. The Sashiko introduced in English right now is more like the summary of the whole process, outcome of the whole process, design, how like the answers, which I completely don't know what the answer is. Those are like a summary or interpretation of somebody's reading or try to read it. Probably if they don't speak Japanese, that's same as reading with the dictionary. Again, nothing's wrong with that, but it takes a long time and takes more work. But what I would like to share throughout my class, class and workshops are the reading part. So that's why that's quite different. And what they get may be very similar, may look very similar because of the outcome. Outcome can be quite similar, but that would be a big loss if we end up with just when we forget what is the kind of experience of reading a whole story. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. Cliff Notes, a famous company that publish book summaries for student, has become a slang term in the US for summary or shallow explanation. Cliff Note. I may have heard of that word, which I probably used a lot. I mean, it's impossible to read a whole, like, I am not criticizing those who read only the part of the book, or the summarized book, because I am the product of that. It is purely impossible for international students to finish the reading, especially for the first few years. So I'm not judging. I just don't want them to mix it. I just don't want them. That's the whole point. If you don't mix it, I'm perfectly fine with that. It's a false advertisement, for that matter. Give me the cliff note. I used that. Yes, I probably used that word. It's like 15 or 20 years ago. Seriously? What? It was there about 20 years ago, wasn't it? I don't know. Sounds familiar. I wouldn't come up. I wouldn't remember without you mentioning it. But Cliff Note have been replaced by Wikipedia. Oh yeah, we didn't have Wikipedia. We're all the millennials. So we had it probably, so the short terms is very short. Sorry, the summary is very important. But then we kind of have to distinguish that, I guess. But the reason I said I guess is it's about reading, and I'm not really qualified to talk about it. But for Sashiko, I can say it out loud that I want a learner, or those who got an interest in Sashiko, it's like a miracle to me. Out of nowhere, like we wouldn't have met if there were no word Sashiko. So they found Sashiko somehow, and then they reach out, ended up knowing me. So that's kind of, there's like a, kind of, I don't want to say fate, but there's something there. And because of that fate, I would like them to experience what I experience. So for those who like books, let's say that you're reading fiction, wouldn't you be upset, or wouldn't you be disappointed if somebody tell you that the 2-page summary of the fiction is everything that book has to offer? You know it's not true, but that summary kind of explain the possibly most important things without the process to reach there. So the summary probably has the plot, summary has the result, summary has the conclusion in the book. If I were in that situation about reading, my reaction is, how could you take the most delicious part of my reading? I wanna be there, but not that fast. I would like to favor it. Not a favorite. It's not a. Huh? I would like to enjoy it in the process. Flavor it. Savor. Thank you. Savor it. Gosh, you know what I want to say. Savor. I know that from the Bon Jovi song, and I knew that. And for those who kind of think that they know about Sashiko by just doing those, pattern pre-printed fabric or design decided stencil by Temu or somewhere else, which I don't know how good they are. There's nothing wrong with enjoying that. At the same time, that does not conclude the experience of it. And I feel that they're missing the most delicious part of Sashiko. So for them, I feel kind of sorry and sad if they are the practitioner. If they are just enjoying Sashiko and if they say like they know about Sashiko, then I feel sad, not angry. If I come across somebody who is teaching that summarized version or abbreviated version of the reading or experience as the like a full experience, then I get angry because that's not true. So the summary is not wrong, they are true, but it's not gonna convey the whole experience as a book. So does it make sense that they're not wrong but not enough? So that's how I kind of start saying that Sashiko introduced in English is not wrong but not enough. So if I kind of align that sentence to the analogy of book, does it more like ring your bell? Possibly. So it's not wrong. Once again, it's not wrong. Information that they share is nowhere wrong. It's just the most delicious part is gone, missing. And please don't say that they know everything without enjoying that. Well, if I use the new word, without savoring it. Well, but it's kind of a difficult, not everybody wants to experience it. They just probably want to have the result. And if their goal is to have results, specifically, what I teach may be I don't want to say over explaining, because they will get result faster if they know how to read it. They can summarize the book, they know how to read it. Sometimes they might be able to get the result by just reading the whole book. So that's the analogy that I probably will use on the Instagram. Ring your bell. That's from the Bon Jovi too. I think that was in the same song. But the song is like, same song is, oh my god, it's repeating in my head. And I'm also the late millennium. There is a album. I don't know if the album is the term that we still use that, because we still use that, right? Although we don't really buy the album. Yeah, because we can find album, but back then we had to purchase a CD to listen to the album. People, my daughter would never believe that, but we use the cassette to transfer that CD to like a Walkman. Anyway, there's an album called Have a Nice Day. That's the Bon Jovi's, I think, album title. And that, I probably listened so many times that I can. Sometimes it comes back by itself. So, it might be wrong. It might be some other, well, it's probably that. I understand what you're saying, like reading the first and last page of a book and skipping every page in between. Well, that's kind of worse than what I said. At least, well, I don't know if somebody first and last page is kind of that's quite lazy. But I don't think the Sashiko introduced in English or just reading the first page and last page, it is summarized. It's summarized. It's just somebody's summary or somebody's interpretation. They don't know the whole picture, and they won't be able to know the whole picture because of the background and language. Like, I have been to the Kogin Teachers Studio at least 10 times by now. I know, I have been back to Japan only twice in 10 years, and 10 times, visiting 10 times is quite crazy, but I was there for like 6 or 7 days in the first tour, and then this tour I visited them 3 times. No, this time 4 times, and probably before 6 times. Yet I cannot grasp the whole picture. Of course not. That's like 80, not 80. She was 30 something. That's a 50 years of her experience, her like journey of Kogin. And how can I, summarize that? How can I fully understand her Sashiko by just visiting 10 times? So it requires a lot of commitment to say that they understand everything. So I can summarize her story. I will, and I can summarize her story and then introduce as a Sashiko. But I will, and I must state that it's the summary of my understanding of her Sashiko. Or Kogin for that matter. I'm sorry, Kogin. And I think that's the integrity of this kind of sharing what Sashiko really is. The reading analogy is better than the pizza analogy, I think. Maybe, yeah. Pizza analogy is very good for those who come to my workshop, because they very much worry about answers. They very much worry about answers or correct answers, and my job is to break through that very firm misunderstanding that they have to do certain way. So pizza example analogy is very good to kind of, I don't know if I can give them the aha moment, but interestingly, those are the people who actually came to my workshop. They decided to commit some of the time and money for that. So they know that there is a book behind it. So they are willing to read a whole book. That's why they come. The majority of the people in Sashiko today do not want to read a book, or they probably do not know the existence of the book behind the summary. So pizza analogy can be misunderstood if they do not realize the book behind the summary. If you acknowledge the book behind the summary, you don't really have to take my class. My workshop is just purely the how to read a book for that matter. So this analogy might help those who wants to experience Sashiko differently. And songs are great for learning language, especially if you're singing alone. It helps your mouth from the word. Yeah. I really don't have a tongue issue in English right now, but I have so many tongue issues in Japanese. I always kind of bite my tongue when I speak in Japanese. My mom just got a CD and we had to think about if we had something to play it on still. I don't have a CD player. I don't remember the last time I had a CD player. Are they still make those? I haven't seen that in the... It's probably an old story, but back then we had a shop called Radio Shack. Radio Shack, and also there's a restaurant we used to go, and they closed. And they were used in the South Park too. Bennigan's. Gosh, it's so long ago. Anybody knows the word, like a restaurant sounds like Bennigan's? Bennigan. I think it's the word for that. God, it's so old. I feel so old. The problem with Sashiko, in my opinion, is not always obvious that there is more behind it. An entire novel is in this example. Just a second. The problem with Sashiko, in my opinion, is it's not always obvious that there is more behind it. An entire novel in this example is not always obvious. It is not always obvious. It is that's the issue. Yes, I agree. I agree with you. So it is not obvious because if they make it obvious, then they are kind of responsible to explain what is behind it, because that's the ask culture. Audience or students expect the teacher to answer every question because they think that they have the answers. So they have to kind of like modify or even like blur the novel behind it so that their words can kind of get a qualification more. Pizzanology is better if you're not using in New York, Detroit, Chicago, Naples, because local knows their pizza is the only true pizza. That's the risk I am willing to take. It's my dream to sell in Chicago, because that's the first place that I had Chicago. I mean, I had a pizza in the U.S. Not frozen, not Little Scissors later on. It was in Chicago, in the transit, in the airport. So Bennington's, right? Not a Bennington, Bennington's. I think that was like a Middle West. He was in Michigan. I guess. I don't know, but like they have a green sign, and it's gone. I don't know where they probably bankrupted. I don't know where they went to. But we probably say the same thing about J.C. Penney, or even what was the restaurant which got chapter 11, which declared chapter 11 recently? Red Lobster. Those. I hope they are not gonna, be gone forever. Well, Radio Shock was, for some reason, I liked the Radio Shock. That was my go-to place. Cause we had a Best Buy, but the Radio Shock may have had a bigger influence back then. That's the time that we had a Black Friday. That you have to pick one store to go. You really have to wait in the line. It's not like today's Black Friday that every day is a Black Friday. I hated it. I really didn't like that Black Friday deal, but in order to get like large flat screen TV for $1,000, we had to wait in the line. Now it's much cheaper than that. But back then, that was the. I don't want to make this live streaming as like, talking about the past. But that's one way to enjoy the stitching too. I'm from Detroit and definitely have strong feeling about pizza. Yeah, so I will bring that analogy to you. What is your what is the pizza? What is the true pizza? What is the pizza? So, I did not mean to horrify this class, but yeah, I knew the impact. Like, this is another risky conversation. But what if somebody make it right, and because that person has so much power, what if somebody make it illegal to not to put pineapple on the pizza? Are you gonna be okay? Like, if somebody decided that the pizza has to have pineapple no matter what, otherwise it's not a pizza, I might move to a different country. I'm not criticizing those who like pineapple on the pizza. I respect. It's just the preference. But I'll be your friend, but I will not. We have to. Well, I can be your friend, but not further than that. You are going to start. I know. That's how bad this topic is. Because, the preference is so strong. If it's like, mushroom, we are not gonna have that much fight probably. Well, we will probably have fight. So, Sashiko is the same. Like, let's say some people say that they don't use thimble and not using the thimble is the answer. Then what's my Sashiko is then, right? What is the Sashiko I'm practicing because I cannot do without the thimble? That's where I started. Right now, everybody uses thimble, because they copied or they learned from me. That's perfectly fine. But 2017 or 2016, there were quite few books that stated that they do not require to use the thimble, or some even books say that proper way is not to use the thimble. So when I was reading that book, I go, okay, so this author is saying that the Sashiko I practice is not the Sashiko? But that's how it is written, and that's how I would read. So, that's how I came up with this analogy. It's the preference. And we gotta respect each origin and the difference. So we don't have to fight. But we cannot define one Sashiko as the answer. Otherwise, somebody might be left behind. Somebody will suffer. And I don't want to create that somebody besides me. Detroit Square is the best texture-wise. Chicago Deep Dish is the best if you want to totally pig out. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Heather. The first sentence is already dangerous. Sorry. Whew. I'm sorry, Heather, but I cannot read that sentence. The first sentence itself is very, very risky to read. Whew. It's the preference. You don't want to use the word best or, Whew. It's not my intention to create the, you know, I don't want to cause any fight or dispute or, anything here. We all like pizza. But would you consider Little Caesars pizza though? That's another bomb to throw through. Is Little Caesars pizza? Are there Little Caesars left? I haven't seen Little Caesars for like 15 years. And back then there was $5 for the medium or large pizza. Do they still? I gotta look. I'm sorry. I'm gonna look. I always use the Little Caesars as the example, but they do. Actually, they're the third biggest chain. But they're not cheap anymore. Not the $5. That's so sad. Why don't we have Little Caesars though? Little Caesars. I really where we have the Pizza Hut and Domino in this town. Where are the oh okay. Please read the comment. As long as it's not from my mouth, it's not my responsibility, so. Yep, it's almost 10 o'clock Eastern time. We shouldn't be eating anything at this moment. Unless you're gonna stay up late. Be careful, let's be careful. CA is a pizza mayonnaise. Menace? So, we put anything on the pizza? Anything? What is the jet pizza? Yeah, we have like Sashiko's portion in your brain is like 1% or 2% at this moment. We all want to eat pizza right now. Pizza and probably Coke or something. Oh, Coke. Sizzling Coke. Oh, actually, beer might be better. I don't drink anymore, but I might contribute to the little sales for tonight pizza. Just has the best ranch dressing. Wow, another difficult word, best ranch dressing. That's also pretty scary. Ranch is evil though. I think that like it's somebody's joke, so I'm kind of imitating that, but that contains all the like greed, desire, milk, butter. It's so, how can I say, so human-like. And I love it, but I can drink that probably. I shouldn't be drinking, but I probably can drink that. That's so good. But best is a little difficult word. I don't know what is best. We had a local farm making ranch, and that ranch was, yeah, the further I think second year of my college, I got addicted to ranch. I brought ranch dressing to Japan. Yeah, to have salad. Alright, it's 10 o'clock, so I gotta stop stitching, but I would like to go through the comments. I think pizza Sashiko is if someone put ketchup and melted cheese on toast and call it the only pizza. Chicago, Detroit, extra are all valid. Yeah, exactly. So I am not really comparing. That's a good point. So we have to kind of, I have not we. I have to elaborate the story that there is a imitation. But I don't want to say that's the imitation. That's very much a toast with ketchup and cheese is well, they are people who are selling the ketchup. I mean, ketchup and cheese on the toast as pizza, but not everybody though. Kind of like a equivalent example is that they learn how to make Chicago pizza, and their information of Chicago pizza is to make a deep dish, deep. So their definition shifted to that pizza has to be deep, and they only focus on the deep part. And that's kind of like a simplification and also the modification of the pizza, pizza culture, and but modification of pizza. That's kind of the same. But Sashiko in English gets the main point. Yes, because it's simpler. Because everybody can make that. They don't need a big oven for that. You just need a toaster or. So I don't want to say that the Sashiko introduced in English is fake or fake. Huh? I said the same word, right? I don't want to say it's a fake or felony is not the word I'm looking for. Fake or imitation. I don't want to say that. I don't think that like that too. So it's well, of course, there are probably Sashiko that is like imitation. But I'm not really talking about that imitation, at least at this moment. They look little more alike than actual. And to be honest, this is my honest thing, but tomato ketchup and cheese on the toast can be categorized as pizza if there's a group of people who consider that as a pizza. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is to define one pizza as the only pizza and exclude others as if they did not exist. So it's the power though. It's the power balance. Let's say that if the Detroit Square Pizza has the biggest power in this world, and they have a voice, they have a power to dominate others, yet New York Pizza exists, Chicago Pizza exists, but they don't have a voice to speak up. As the result, those two other kinds or many other kinds of the pizza will be erased from the history by those powerful Detroit Square Pizza. And that's sad. So that's why I said the only pizza. Yeah. I think we're on the same page. So it's what's a bunch of smart asses tonight. I love smart asses. Come on, because I'm one of those. I'm one of those. I have to make sure that what it means, but well, you are not smart. Nobody's. Another word, jokers. Well, I enjoy that. This live streaming is supported by those. I really appreciate it. I mean, I don't know what I don't know what the audience don't know. That's the whole problem that I started with. I don't talk like this much in Japanese live streaming about this kind of specific topic because I don't have to. So, like, probably the easiest example is the ask culture and guess culture. That's very defined as the article as well. So you can probably find articles to understand the difference. It's really clear difference between the US and Japan, the culture-wise. Ask culture and guess culture. I did not know that until I come to the US. I felt so bad taking the professor's time, so I didn't ask the question and I got a bad grade. The teacher's, professor's opinion. The professor saying is that you gotta ask, you gotta speak up. Well, if I speak up, I'm gonna take your time. Well, it's not the culture. I had to learn. It was a hard way to learn that, but I was not this loud. I wasn't this nosy. I was not this, well, for that matter, joker this much. I think the reading analogy is clearer than the pizza analogy, but I wish you would explain it without analogy. Yeah, that's my goal. So again, once the pizza analogy is good for those who are already interested in what I'm sharing, because their goal is to find out what is the answer, and I have to break through that sort of misunderstanding they have. And book analogy is very good for those who do not really see the sashikos, many sashikos behind the simplified version, because that example of reading a whole book experience is much more delicious, much more enjoyable than the. Sorry, my brain is all pizza, so no, I cannot mix those analogies. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. I was about to say book is delicious, but that's wrong. Book is not delicious. Reading a book can bring us the delicious experience, but book is not delicious. No, that's not the conclusion of today's live streaming. Wow, it's scary. So I will use both analogies. I mean, I will keep using many analogies. I think that's the kind of the only way to fill the gap between two cultures. Now, Susan, sir, and the analogy can muddle the message, in my opinion. It is. In 3 years in, I'm still trying to fully understand what you're saying. I am very happy to have you here, and I really appreciate you sticking with. I don't know if I can bring you to the complete understanding, but it's my goal to. So I think Sue is a probably great example, as she does not need the pizza analogy anymore because she knows that there are so many pizzas or answers. Probably reading analogy is better to understand what is the difference between the Sashiko introduced in English as the sort of summary of another Sashiko. So there are very big gap between, I don't want to say between us, but the culture-wise between us. So it takes some time. I mean, I don't understand my wife after 14 years of marriage. I know nothing about, well, I wouldn't say nothing, but she does not know much about Japanese culture. You here are more knowledgeable about Japanese culture more. They wouldn't like it at the library if you return a book with a bite. I would not put that in my mouth. That's what she said. Thank you. Okay, that concludes. That was a good one. I wasn't planning to say that, but that was the office moment. Yes. I hope that you screamed. That's what she said in front of your camera too, before me. Because you expect me to guess what you're saying instead of. I don't know how to tell it because I ask. There's no way, there's no word, there's no sentence explanation that I can tell you what it is. I wish I had, but we don't. That's the whole point. We don't have it. So can we fabricate it? I am trying. I'm trying, but it's the product of culture. All right, thank you so much for joining the live streaming. Because Japanese is more indirect. Yes. We do not prefer clear definition. I will go over that a little more next time. All right, thank you so much. I hope you have next week is the last live streaming for 2024. So I hope you can come over. It's right after the Christmas, 27th or so. No, 26th, I guess. All right. One last time. So please click the like button. It is my intention to upload more videos on the YouTube next year. It's my resolution, which I'm not gonna probably be able to achieve, but I will try to maintain this channel as the good place to be. Okay. Have a good night. Thank you so much. Bye bye.